we thank you for this gathering together. We ask that, Lord, that you'll be with us and strengthen us and help us as what we gather from this today. And we ask that you'll be with our speaker, Lord, and help us to understand what's going on. In Jesus' name we ask it. Amen.
Amen. Let's do the pledge. Singing the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I've asked the treasurer and the secretary not to give a report because we want to devote as much time as possible with our speaker. So he has not arrived just yet. So would you want to give the minutes unannounced?
Are you asking? Yeah, unannounced, yeah. Okay, well, good thing I bought them here because. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I didn't want to miss it.
Okay, the minutes of April 25th meeting are as follows. Larry presided with 23 residents in attendance in Holly. Officially opening the meeting was the Pledge of Allegiance along with a short prayer. The reading of 21st March meeting minutes were approved by Patsy and Becky Baker. Becky B. and Christine approved the treasurer's report. The planning committee. John announced that the next planned event will be held on Saturday, May 27th. The cookout is to honor our servicemen and women who lost their lives defending our country. Side dishes and desserts are welcome, and a sign-up sheet will be posted. Special guest. Holly read a brief business bio of the special guest, John, and I don't want to screw up his name. Where is Holly? Whatever. Okay. Joe Mascoviak.
That's good. That's a good pronounce. Very good.
He's a longtime housing advocate, starting his career at the Legal Aid Society of Columbus, where he became the managing attorney for housing and worked on behalf of low-income housing clients in Franklin County. Mr. Mascoviak, who was scheduled to be here today, had to reschedule for Tuesday, May 9th at 1 p.m. Questions. In preparation for the guest attorney, questions were highlighted dealing with our more serious issues. Betty read off a few. Threat of eviction if a resident doesn't allow spraying with Able Pest Control. Cannot use a resident's own choice of company to treat apartment who will be cheaper than Able and do a better job, guaranteeing their work. Take 3 weeks to even start treatment after reporting bug sighting. Holly will send entire list to the attorney as a heads up before his visit next month. Activities. Since the dinner held this month, sponsored by Larry's church, was so successful, another dinner has been scheduled for Friday, May 5th. A sign-up sheet will be on the counter. Larry, oh, excuse me. Larry is trying to set up a trip to the works in downtown Newark. He'll update us when he gets more info. Old news. 7 people participated in the mass mailing to Accord as recorded in the March 21st minutes. The purpose was to notify Accord of what we continue to deal with here. General. A resident asked Larry if the attorney is qualified to address the issue of the large increases in rent that is affecting all of us. Holly said yes. Roger and John adjourned the meeting at 10:30 a.m. Respectfully submitted, Bev Groh.
Do we have a motion to accept? Becky?
Yes.
Second.
Aye. Same thing.
Yeah, I got you.
Sandy? Okay. Where's Joe?
I'm here, but you told me I didn't have to have any reports.
All right. good.
This wasn't a report
Yeah,
thing.
okay. All right. So, anybody, let's go over the questions that Betty and a few of the members have come up with to just kind of brief us a little bit about what they are. Betty?
Do you know what that gentleman drives?
Pardon me?
Do you know what that gentleman would drive? The guy
Drive.
that's coming.
Drive?
Drive.
A car is.
Is there a car circling out there?
Well, I seen a vehicle go
Yes,
slow and
I
then went
do,
through
yeah.
there and he just come back
You
through.
didn't know
Well,
what.
somebody should go outside and see if they can find him.
I thought the same thing, Janet.
Who's out there?
Fred.
Oh, he's looking for it.
Yeah.
Okay, the first thing that people have brought up is that it's very upsetting to be threatened with eviction if you don't use Able. And I'm glad Lois is here because she knows about Able.
I'm glad I'm here too. I love these questions.
And number two is Able's not very thorough, and they certainly aren't effective. I mean, you go through months of this stuff, and they don't go away. And the worst thing is people who call them and tell them they have a problem. It takes 3 weeks to get them here, and then Joe will be able to address the issue she had with that. And while you have the bugs, you can't, people don't want to visit, so you're not having visitors. Everybody's isolated. It's just awful.
I was told you couldn't have visitors. I could not have visitors in my
Okay, well, you can address that then. Very good. And then there's maintenance issues that people are really complaining about, and that the trash is mostly because now we've got roaches, and they don't take the trash out regularly. It's going to be awful in here.
Especially in the summertime.
Yes, and so that's upsetting. People are not reporting the bugs. A lot of people are not reporting that they even have them because they can't afford it, and they don't want to be evicted. So therefore, they're in a catch-22. And if you can't afford the treatment, they take it out of your rent, and then they charge you a fee every month. And yeah, they're charging a fee every month, a late fee, and that's another issue that Becky can attribute to. And you can't use your own company of choice, which we all think is really awful because we're paying for this. Why can't we have who we trust to come in here? I mean, nobody wants stuck with somebody that's not going to do anything but charge you $125 every time they look at you. And there's people that will come in and guarantee their work, and if you aren't rid of bugs after the third spray, it's on them. It's not on you.
And it's cheaper.
And it's way cheaper. And then we're going to ask the tenants who have had first. There comes this guy.
Yep.
That's going to have the first. Holly is.
Yeah, she's right there.
But anyway, that we want tenants to speak up about their own encounter with all this, because some of us have never encountered it.
Yeah, I've never.
So but we do worry because we're not exempt.
Yeah.
Well, you're in a hall that has to burn down the hall.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, let's try to not talk over each other.
She already addressed
One at a
that.
time.
She already addressed that.
Okay.
Solid advice.
Okay. All right.
Larry's president of Resident Council.
Hi, there you go. Nice to meet you.
Same here.
Welcome. Okay, so we just went over some of the questions I think was texted to you, and open it up with that.
Yeah, I don't know, I think he needs too much more introduction, right? He's the Affordable and Fair Housing Coordinator at Ohio, which is the Coalition on Homelessness and Housing in Ohio. Mouthful, I know.
Welcome.
Good to have you.
There you go.
Probably more importantly, I'm an attorney, and I've done housing law for pretty much the entirety of my 35-year career. So I know a few things about housing law, and I
If you can
specialize.
speak up up as loud as you can.
I specialize in landlord-tenant law, so I'm in the right place, I'm sure, kind of thing. So I don't have the questions memorized, so those folks are going to need to ask me them. So I'm not that good.
Go ahead. Okay, I can start.
I saw them, so I'm familiar with them, but I didn't memorize them.
Okay. The first thing is that, and not everyone in here has had an encounter of this, but a lot of people have, and they would be happy to speak to it. People are being threatened with eviction if you don't allow their company, which is Abel's, to come in and spray your apartment. You can't have your own company, they say. And so, therefore, everyone's scared to death of all of it because nobody can afford to just pick up and move, nor is there a lot of places to move to.
I'm sure that both of those last things are true.
And Able is not a thorough place, and their stuff is not effective, and they don't guarantee it. And I mean, some of these people in here have had sprays, many sprays, that have not worked.
All right. So I'm going to try to start at the beginning and try to remember all the way through. There was about 5 questions there, so we'll see.
Okay.
Trust me, there were. All right. So the landlord does get to choose the extermination company. Tenants do not get insurance. Your lease says that, but even if your lease didn't say that, it would still be true. The landlord gets to, if they want. I did see something like from meeting notes last year with Calvin.
Yep, right here.
Where he said, I would suggest using rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle. Don't even think about that. So I used to save articles of people trying their own extermination methods using alcohol, and then they use fire, and then poof. So they do get rid of the bugs, along with everything else. So, really bad advice. Don't even think about doing that. All right. Just so you know, most exterminators will not guarantee a result. It is not just this company. I used to be on what it was called the Central Ohio Bedbug Task Force. It kind of just dissolved of its own accord. But exterminators were a regular part, and they would tell you, we cannot guarantee that it's going to work. We do the best of our job. For bed bugs, that is especially true. Bed bugs are among the hardest to get rid of. And you should know that almost always, if they're using chemicals, they will tell you it takes more than one treatment. All right? And it's not surprising that that happens. All right? And the fact that they would not guarantee it, again, is not surprising. One of the problems with bed bugs is they're really good at hiding. So depending on the protocols here about what they do with spraying, I will tell you that exterminators say that when your unit is found with bed bugs, you're not only supposed to spray that unit, but the one next to it, up and down. But that's not required under the law. That's a best practice. Best practices are not required. So what happens, and again, this is not me, because I'm a lawyer, not an exterminator, but I listen, all right? And they say, do you guys, most of you should remember the old Raid commercials, where there was, Raid, run! Remember that? Yeah. That's what bed bugs do when the chemicals come and they go through the walls, everywhere else. So the fact that they're not gone unless they spray around is not surprising. And there's nothing I can tell you that you can force them to do that. However, having said all that, that does not make you responsible for the bed bugs. Responsible, and there's 2 degrees of responsibility. Treating, which your landlord clearly has taken on that role, but paying for it. So you only are supposed to pay for it if you are responsible. Your lease actually addresses this, and it does so in a way that's reasonable in the language, but that doesn't mean it's reasonable in terms of the application and execution, which is different as a case-by-case basis, but you can't, so that means each case is different, and facts matter when it comes to the law and trials, so you can't say whether or not they are being reasonable until you know the facts of each and every case, and whether or not this one was reasonable and that one was reasonable, or the other one was reasonable, because that's how it works. And with bed bugs, you should understand that they do have a line in there that says something about they will use the advice of their exterminator, but they also say in their sole discretion. Using the exterminator as a basis for determining who may be at fault, in my opinion, is an excellent way to do it. Using the sole discretion of the landlord is not, in my opinion. But you should understand that if it gets to court, the presumption for a court should be that the landlord was responsible for paying for it unless they can show that the tenant was responsible for introducing the bed bugs. And the burden of proof about this is on the landlord, not on you. Now that doesn't change the fact that they can threaten to evict. There's nothing I can do to tell you they're not allowed to do that. What I can tell you though is that they don't get to do that unless they go to a court of law and they convince a judge or magistrate that you as the tenant were responsible for the bed bugs.
May I say something?
Sure.
I probably had bed bugs the longest of anybody in here, for about 2 years. I dealt with them. Abel came to my apartment 8 times, and I still had bed bugs. So I called somebody that I knew from Granville, a pest control person that I'd known for years, and he came out, and in 2 times they were gone. Now, he looked at my slips and said they don't use strong enough stuff. And then I had it done again at the beginning of this year, just as a precaution. Well, a couple of
You
weeks.
do know that's a violation of your lease to have someone else.
No, I have a letter in writing saying I'm allowed to have.
Okay, that's
somebody
different.
outside.
So if anybody else is going to do what she does, get one of those.
I took care of that already.
Okay, good for you.
But that was before they made the ruling that you had to pay Able to do this. I will not pay Able at all.
Well, again, you don't have to pay Able. You have to pay Able if you're responsible.
No, you have
You
to
have to pay Able.
Because they take it out of your rent if you don't pay.
And then they charge you a late fee on top of
I
that.
understand, but again, you only have to pay if you are responsible. So ultimately, the question for you is whether you're going to say, I'm not going to pay, and draw the line in the sand and go to court. Hold on, before I forget, you guys might want to take note of the expert she has, because ultimately, in this kind of case, having an expert come in to testify that their company sucks, as a legal term, right? To be able to show that it's been over and over again, and it sure ain't my fault. It's the company you hired fault, and here is my witness to be able to show you that that's true, assuming that they might be willing to testify against.
Yes, I would be.
No, not you. The exterminator.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So you don't get to say what the expert said. That is what we call hearsay in the court of law. You probably heard that on TV. I don't like using TV law as an example because most of it's wrong. All right, but that part is right. So you have to bring in the expert who said it and have them say it, because the other side gets to cross-examine the expert.
Okay, well, I call my own people,
I understand.
and they came, and then,
I'm saying those people might be of value to not just you, but everybody, for the reasons I just said.
but then the man that owned the business was retiring, so he sold it to a company in Columbus called Columbus Pest Control, and they came 2 times. And I haven't seen a bed bug since. But I want to tell you, it is very disarming to sit in your chair at with bugs crawling down the front.
I'm sure.
And I didn't even know what a bed bug looked like. I've lived for 85 years and I've never had a bug in my house before. And they are very annoying. It cost me $5,000. I had to throw my bed away because even though I put one of those protective things on it, they were all inside there. I had to throw a chair away. And
Was this on the advice of the exterminator?
Pardon me?
Was this on the advice of the exterminator? Because typically you do not have to get rid of furniture. It can be treated as well, but not always.
It was treated, but I'm not going to sleep in a bed
So that was your choice.
that still has bed bugs.
That's your choice.
It wasn't my choice.
So,
It wasn't
because
my
typically
choice.
exterminators will tell you, we can treat the furniture, you don't have to get rid of it. There are sometimes if the infestation is too bad, that's not true. But you, in my opinion, you should let the exterminator make that decision unless you're just too uncomfortable. But again, that's your decision.
Well, he did make the decision because even though this other person came twice, I still had the bed bugs in my bed, inside the cover that was supposed to protect the mattress. And then it was my choice to get rid of it because I would never sleep on that again.
I understand.
So, am I interpreting you right by saying that if a person does not pay, they come in and spray, and they do not, the person does not pay, and the eviction notice comes into play, then we can go and help that person in court?
You can't, but the expert might be able to.
Okay.
If the expert's willing to testify that the company that's being used is ineffective, and that's why you keep having the problem.
But we can't have that person come in, according to management here, we can't have.
Unless you get a letter like she did, allowing you to avoid the consequences of the lease and have your company come in and do the spray. But if you don't do what she did, you're in violation of your lease. I looked at your lease, and it basically says, we get to do this, you don't get to do it. If you do it, then that's a violation of your lease, and you can get evicted for doing it on your own instead of consulting us.
So what you're saying is that we would all need to get a letter from the office.
Well, you're not going to get that.
They're not gonna give you that.
They're not going to give you that.
Don't give me that.
So how would you get a letter saying that you can use another exterminator?
They're not gonna give you
They're
that.
not going to give you that.
That was a long time ago.
You can try.
Probably a year or so ago.
So one of the things you can do.
What happened was, I told them, I'm not doing Able anymore, because they don't do anything. They've been here 6 or 8 times, and the bed bugs started at the beginning of our hall and worked their way down to all the apartments.
Very standard, very typical.
And they waited 2 months before they even sprayed mine. See, they should have gone right down the line and done every one of those apartments at the same time.
And they're still doing
But
that.
again, that's the best practice. That's not a requirement under the law. Okay? Now, you guys, even if you're right that you can't get letter of approval, it might not be a terrible idea to ask and to have them say no, and then say, I tried to solve this problem on my own, but look, they said no.
Get a written.
We're still using the company. That doesn't work based on the expert testimony of the company that she got. That might make them think a little bit.
So what we have to do in order to make a change, for them to change something, in essence, you're saying we have to take them to court.
No, unfortunately, they will probably have to take you to court. You draw a line in the sand by saying, I'm not paying it. They try to evict you. The problem is, by taking them to court, you're going to need a lawyer. It's going to cost money. It is not a typical type of legal action. It's called a declaratory judgment. Okay?
But it can be done.
Oh, yeah. But I doubt that legal aid is going to do it.
No, they're not.
That's your free lawyer. So you're going to have to pay a lawyer to do it. So let me finish. All right? As I said, it's not a typical action. Most lawyers have templates for cases and complaints that they file. This is not typical. They probably would have to invent it. Do you know how lawyers make money? By spending time working for you, which means they will spend more time working for you on something where they don't have stuff already sitting in a file that they can pull out and fill in the blanks, as opposed to creating it anew, which will be 3 or 4 times the work it would normally would do just to get into court. That doesn't count doing the stuff in court.
Okay, how about if we write a letter and then if they don't do what we ask them to do, best practices, we would be able to put our rent in escrow if the magistrate would let us. How about that avenue?
So you only can use, well, you can use escrow if it happens. Here's the problem you have with escrow. All right? If they're treating, essentially they're dealing with the problem. All right? Well, I said that's how it looks. So they're going to say, I want to take the money out of escrow. Yes, it's a problem, but we're addressing it. There's no reason for the money to be in escrow. Let me finish. Typically, escrow is used when landlords refuse to address the condition. When they look like they are addressing the condition, it is a much harder, and the burden of proof is on the tenant in an escrow proceeding to say, this is a problem, and my landlord's not fixing it, because they're going to come back and say, yes, we are, we're working on it, you haven't given me enough time, and then the burden of proof falls back to you to say, it's not working and it's not going to work, and you're going to need the expert again, and you're probably going to have to pay for the expert in that kind of case to come in and testify in addition to the attorney.
But what we could say is the treatment they're using is not effective.
By going.
But you can say that. And
Well, I mean, we can get experts. We can have them come in here.
you
and
make it
interview
sound
all
like
the
it's so
people that
easy.
have it.
Trust me, it's not.
And we don't.
One attorney told me that it was a habitation problem. That if you say in your paper, your letter that you type.
You mean habitability?
Habitability problem.
Okay, that's why I was confused. You saw. Okay.
I don't know what I said. but
That's
I
in
mean,
habitation. That's why I was confused. You're trying to think.
Habitability.
Okay. Yes, which is why the duty is on the landlord in the first place to exterminate. So then the question is, who's responsible for the bed bugs being introduced? Was it the tenant or was it others?
So they put it, what you're saying is, they take you to court and they have to prove that you're the one that brought them in.
Well, they have. So what they're probably going to do, and again, you would probably want a legal aid attorney, is they're going to prove that you didn't pay. And the answer is, well, this isn't a simple non-payment issue. I agreed to pay the rent. I just didn't agree to pay for the bed bugs. Because in my opinion, I'm not responsible for the bed bugs. And until they can prove that I'm responsible for the bed bugs, I shouldn't have to pay.
But they just take it out of your rent if you don't pay.
I understand. That's why I said it's a two-step process. You're going to say, I paid the rent, or I tried to pay the rent. I refused to pay the other charges because I'm not responsible for the other charges. In your lease, they make it clear that they're allowed to do that. All right? And that makes the defense more difficult, but still possible. But again, why you want to have a legal aid attorney to be able to make that defense saying, Your Honor, this is not a simple non-payment of rent case. Here's how we got to non-payment of rent. I paid, or I tried to pay the rent. I didn't try to pay this other stuff because I don't think I'm responsible for this other stuff. So that's what this case is really about, and that's what they need to prove. Yeah. But again, so just so you understand, that is not easy. All right, that's why you need a legal aid attorney. So when you hear me say it, and the words tumble out of my mouth like this, all right, so quickly, it's because I've done this over and over and over and over again for 30 years. I'm guessing most of you have not.
No, but these people have been dealing with this for the
I'm
last
talking
3
about
years.
people.
I understand, but these people have been dealing with bed bugs for the last 2 or 3 years.
I'm just saying about going.
Yeah, I know. Trust me.
Because people
and they're
hear
done.
and think, well, I can just go to court
Yeah.
and do that. No, that is just not true.
Well, how many of us in this room can afford to go to court?
That's why I said legal aid. Legal aid does a lot of eviction defense work.
And you're not,
And
are
they
you
don't
legal
charge?
aid or no?
I'm not legal aid.
Okay.
I'm with the Coalition on Homelessness and Housing in Ohio.
Okay. So we need legal aid.
There is one attorney on staff for our organization, for the entire state of Ohio.
Oh my
You're talking to him now. All right? So providing representation in court to everybody that wants it, and trust me, a lot of people want it, is beyond the capacity of services we can provide. Legal aid has multiple attorneys for a much more limited geographic area. There's an office right here in Newark. So, of legal aid as part of Southeast Ohio Legal Services, or SOLS.
Basically, what you're saying is we don't have any rights in this building.
I did not say that, and you will not.
Okay, can we move on?
I understand why you said that, but you were not going to get me to agree to say that, no
What
matter
you're
how long
saying
you
is-
have me stand up here.
But what happens if legal aid does not accept?
Then you're on your own.
Well, the attorney that I spoke to about a year ago told me if you decide to take them to court yourself, I can recommend someone and they should not charge you more than $500. He said, don't pay anybody more than, so if they're not.
They may know the market here better than I do. That sounds awfully cheap to me.
That's what he told me.
I understand. Again, I always practice in Columbus when I was practicing for legal aid. So I will tell you that if somebody told me that for Columbus, I'd say somebody's outright lying to you. I don't believe that. Out here, maybe it's different. I don't know the market out here.
Well, didn't you, Becky, try legal aid?
We talked to legal aid, they wouldn't help us.
Again, what I'm suggesting is it gets framed as a
You have to wait till that.
defense in court because you're getting evicted. You have to understand the other thing about taking them to court. That's a lot more time, a lot more energy, a lot more experience, a lot more work. You're asking legal aid to do it in a way that's going to triple or quadruple the amount of time they have to spend.
Well, legal aid's not going to do it.
But I'm explaining to you why their decision is what it is, in my opinion. Again, I don't speak for legal aid, but I am fairly certain I know. And I used to know the managing attorney who left just about a year ago, a long time legal aid with me, and I'm almost certain that's what he was thinking. Because Dennis, they get so many cases, they have to be able to figure out how to help as many people as possible. Finding a case that takes 3 or 4 times the amount of time that most of the cases they do is not an expedient way for them to help as many people as possible. And I know Dennis thought like that. They have a new managing attorney. I don't know if things are thought differently now or not. So I've met them, but
I was just gonna say, I think if, from what you said, what I gathered is if you're served an eviction notice, then you legal aid probably would help you. If you go to legal aid first and say, will you come represent me in fighting this issue?
to do it affirmatively and having me be the one to go to court. In my opinion, they probably won't.
But
That's
if
what
you
she
get
said.
an eviction notice, they'll represent you.
Right, when you flip it around. The downside to that is it ends up in eviction court, and A, you have the possibility of losing. There's no guarantees. And B, even if you win, to some extent you lose because there's an eviction filing on your record.
Right, it looks bad for you.
Correct. Even if you win. Some landlords don't care if you win. Some landlords do care. And it makes a difference. They don't all look at those things the same way. Yeah.
I just have one question. We don't have any rights, like with Abel, we're not allowed to stay in there while I asked if he could show me what he found, because you're not allowed in there when he's in there looking.
That's for your own protection because the chemicals.
Looking, not
But they don't dress up in protective gear.
Still.
Okay, so she said, no, you can't be in there.
She who?
The
Manager.
It's up to the exterminator. If that's what the exterminator decides they want to do, that's what they can do. Whether the exterminator is telling that or whether your landlord's making up their own protocols, I can't say.
So if you're being
Hold on. Remember what he said. Let's not talk over each other.
I saved everything. I have everything saved, but I was told this last time, do not bring anybody into your apartment. So you're isolating yourself again. And it's my word, or when my kids first, when this all happened at first, my son and daughter-in-law came in, and they were downstairs, and my daughter-in-law went in and was talking, she's a social worker, she went and was talking to Tony. And my son was standing outside waiting on her, and the door was ajar. And she said, "This is not your mom's fault. She didn't bring him in." And so Kyle just kind of knocked on the door and he said, "Are you saying it's not my mom's fault, but you're charging her for these treatments?" And she goes, "We know her. It's not her fault. She didn't bring him in."
Again, those kind of statements, if you could bring the person who heard them, can testify about that in court to be able to defeat any charges that are assessed to you. But that person has to come to court.
Oh, he would.
So, well, I'm just saying, it's important to understand that you just can't go to court and say it. You have to bring the person who actually heard, because that is what is called an admission against interest by the landlord. But the person who actually heard it, it has to be the person to testify to it. That would be great evidence that you shouldn't have to pay.
Well, Calvin himself came in and examined your apartment and said there were no bugs. The guy who's the head of this place said that Abel was wrong.
I just got through paying in January. For a long time I've been paying for these bed bugs. And they stripped, threw away my couch, my chair. They
Who's
threw away
the
my
they
whole bedroom suit, everything. They threw away everything.
They who?
We were told by her and by him.
Or who?
Tony.
Who? I don't know the players
The
here. You have to understand.
the manager, if there's one bed bug crawling slowly, it means you have them everywhere. And they have
Not
to get treated.
necessarily, but often.
I'm not talking about they're running. I'm talking about
Doesn't matter.
They're ready to
I
die.
know. Okay. But
So your landlord doesn't get to decide whether or not you throw stuff out. In my opinion, if they rely on the exterminator to be able to say so, then you should follow that, because what's going to happen is if you have more bed bugs, the exterminator advised you to get rid of this because they think it's good.
Yes, everything.
Let me finish. All right? And when you don't get rid of it, the landlord's going to be able to say, the reason you have bed bugs again is because you didn't do what the exterminator said. It's different if the landlord says it. The landlord doesn't have the expertise. The exterminating company does, and they can use that against you. There's a big difference there, in my opinion.
Joe, go ahead.
I was going to talk to you this in private because it's really upsetting me. Last year, they came in to do inspection, and they did their inspection, and a week
later, the exterminator or the landlord? Folks, you got to remember, we're talking about multiple parties here. Every time you say he, she's, and theys, I know you know what you're talking about, but you should not count on the fact that I do.
I'll give you names. Abel came in, and they did inspection underneath the mattress, in the cushions, and he said I was free. A week later, I was infested. I hired my own person to come in and do the bugs. We had a different manager at that time, and I came down and told her I had a few bugs. I didn't know I was so much. I had a few bugs, and I hired a person. And she says, that's okay. That's a different manager. Okay, so I hired my person. The box spring was so infested, it was thousands in the box spring itself. We threw it away. We had to. I had a cover on my mattress, which it did not affect my mattress at all. It was okay. The person I hired to come in, he was fine. We had to do the clothes, dry the clothes, the whole thing. We went behind the outlets to put the spray in the wall because that's where they're coming from. We did all that. We did everything that was possible. So that was in October and November by the time he was finished of last year. I was away this year to South Carolina visiting my daughter for a month or so. When I came back, I was there maybe about 2 weeks, and there was 2 bugs in the bathroom. And I went down and told Tony, I have some bugs. Can Abel's come in, or do I since we already got this business that we have to have Abel's in here, so I says, can you do that? She said, okay, and I says, we saw them where they're coming from. In the corner of the ceiling where the walls meet, there was a little hole, and we saw them coming out. Justin, our maintenance guy, saw them also. I grabbed him in out of the hole. Look at that. He says, I'll be back to fill up the hole. I said, okay. I walked on down and told Tony that needed to be plugged up. I can't get up there. She says, well, how big is it? I says, it's big enough for the bugs to come out. Justin and I saw it. She was mad at Justin because he saw it.
Who's Justin?
She said,
The maintenance man.
I'll have a work order, and within 2 weeks, you can have this. Now, this was the beginning of March, well, the middle of March. The hole is still there. I've been spraying like crazy. Okay, so now she knows I got bugs.
You've been spraying, or you have an exterminator spraying?
I've been spraying myself.
Okay, because most over-the-counter stuff doesn't work. That's why I asked.
This works. It's from Harris, and it's really good. It kills the eggs. That's the most important thing. You have to kill the eggs so they don't hatch and go everywhere. Anyway, I'm a storyteller. I have to tell the whole thing. So anyway, she said she would have Abel's come in and inspect. So he came in, tore my mattress upside down and everything. There was 3 little babies outside of my cover. So he went and got a piece of toilet paper, threw them down the toilet, okay? He says, I'll be back. Justin says, I'll be back. They left the door ajar. I hadn't seen them. No more. So he did come to spray, a week ago, Wednesday. He came and he stood outside my door, and I said to him, what exactly are you going to do? He said, I'm going to fumigate this place. Okay? By this time, all my bugs are dead. 90% of them are dead, I'm sure. So I says, well, are you going to go behind the outlets and spray in the walls? Because that's where they're coming from. He said, I'm fumigating, and he walked away. I said to him, you can come in. You don't need to go away. Come in. So I went and sat in the laundry room. Tony came back and said, she went after him, and she came back with him. They went in my apartment, and he came right back out, and she went down after him, and then she came back to me, and she said, he won't spray because of 2 reasons. And I says, and what could that be? She said, the first one is you did not take your mattress cover off and your box spring cover off. They were actually made for bed bugs. That's what they were for. So I said, it doesn't say in the lease to take off your mattress cover. It says to take off your sheet and your a pad, if you have a pad on top. Doesn't say anywhere to take off the covers. So, and I said, so what's the other thing? She says, he don't want you to spray at all. So I said, you mean if I see a bug, I can't spray? She says, no, he won't do that. So he didn't spray. Now how I'm sleeping on the couch since March. So the end of March. So now he's coming this Thursday. My daughter will come in on Wednesday night and take off the covers. I'm going to take my spray and put it down at my sister's house or something so he don't see that. But he was actually mad because I was spraying. So what are we supposed to do? If you see bugs, they don't come right away to kill them.
Your lease says you don't get to treat. That's reserved to the landlord.
So do we let them just multiply and have thousands in our house?
Yes.
Until they come?
Yes.
Well, that's not right.
They could evict you
Yes,
for
I got an
violating
eviction
the
notice.
lease by spraying yourself when that right is reserved to the landlord under the lease.
That's not. And I also got an eviction notice that day, last Wednesday. I got it on a Monday, and he was coming on a Wednesday. So there's the 3 dates on this paper. I believe you have a copy of it. Yes. There's 3 dates that I have this eviction notice, and they didn't even come. They weren't even there yet. So how can they they give me an eviction notice when the dates didn't even apply, and I didn't say that I didn't let them in.
Since you're doing this out in public, you mean they hadn't even come yet by the date of the notice.
Right.
They were in the future. I have to admit, I've been doing this a long time.
I'm sure.
I have never seen a 3-day notice about violations that are listed on days that had not yet come in the calendar. I have no idea how your landlord thinks they can use that 3-day notice in court. Because no. This particular 3-day notice saying you violated the lease on a day that has not happened yet.
Yeah.
I've done this over 30 years. I've never seen that before. I have no idea how they think they can use that as a notice. That's a good notice to go to court. They're going to have to give you another 3-day notice if they really intend to go to court. And they have to have a good 3-day notice when they go to court. So any legal aid lawyer would have a field day with that notice, laughing. And the court would probably laugh at that notice saying, can you see into the future? Do you know that they're going to violate the lease on May 3rd when you give them a notice on May 1st? Are you that prescient? So do you have a crystal ball, and did you wave your crystal ball and saw into the future, and you know what's going to happen? So that's the kind of thing that I would be saying to the court.
Well, they do that to us because they think we're all old and stupid.
And they say that right to your face.
Yes. I want to tell you, I may be old, but I'm not stupid.
So I understand that. They're not nice. I can't make them nice. I don't know how to make them nice.
Well,
right? If I knew how to make them nice, I often tell people, I would not be standing here and talking to you, because if I had the secret of how to make mean people nice, how many gazillions of dollars would that be worth? I'd be on Dr. Phil pitching to everybody, here's how you can make mean people be nice to you, and I would not be here talking to you now because I'd be making my gazillions, sharing my secret with the world.
But the gentleman that works for Able, when we ask that question to him personally, he should be able to answer us professionally.
Again, you're talking about should. There's nothing in the law that's going to require that.
What happened to the common courtesy? I mean, we used to have this to be able to go to somebody and have the courtesy to them to explain. Well, I'm not going to come in today because I've seen a bottle of spray, and that's not what we need to have. And your cover needs to come off your bed. Explain.
I agree, it's common courtesy. The problem is common courtesy is not enforceable in a court of law. All right?
Okay, let me ask you something.
COVID did us no favors, in my opinion, when it comes to
COVID didn't do anybody any favor.
When it comes to common courtesy. I think everybody got a little more hostile and forgot how to treat each other when we stopped seeing each other for a period of time. Personal opinion. But again, I have no way to tell you how you can force that to happen because it doesn't exist.
Well, just like one McDonald's now.
Can I ask you?
Can I take your order?
Yeah.
No, not wanting.
I know your time is limited, so I'm going to ask you. Bottom line, what's the recourse that we have? I mean, what can we do other than taking management to court? Which it doesn't seem like it's going to be to our benefit anyway.
If you get evicted.
No, management takes you to court if it's an eviction. If you're looking to take management to court, that's trying to preempt an eviction. All right? That's different.
So what's our recourse? I mean, are we going to be continually bothered by this problem because we don't have any way to solve it because management is not cooperating?
My guess is some people are going to have to start drawing a line and saying, I'm not paying this. All right? If you think I have to pay it, take me to court and I will get in a lawyer and defend it.
Well, from what you described, taking them to court is going to take time.
No, again, what I'm saying,
They take you to court.
Right.
They take us to court.
They take you to court. And again, the likelihood that legal aid is going to provide an attorney in that circumstances, my arms aren't long enough, all right, is much greater than you going to legal aid and saying, I want to take my landlord to court. Because that's a lot more time consuming, all right?
So there's no rights for anybody.
No, again, you're not going to get me to say that.
But
You have the right to take them to court. You just don't have a right to go tell legal aid you have to represent me. in
yeah,
court.
but I'm just saying what I'm getting from this whole thing is
We don't have.
we're old and we're senile and they don't care about the elderly. That's what we're getting from this. They come in here and they say, we're going to treat you like we treat our parents. And it has come
I
from
guess if their parents have bed bugs, they do not treat them the same
this
way.
has come from Calvin's mouth. You know,
Again,
but
somebody's got to take a stand. That's the
and
only
he
way
has
around it.
said in several different meetings that your neighbor will be sprayed,
Yeah.
upper floor, the lower floor.
It's gonna be an L.
But
Yeah,
they
they
can't
don't
make
do
them.
that.
But they
That
don't,
never
they won't do it.
Nope.
Because you can't make them.
Again,
They said
it's
that.
a best practice. If they don't actually have bed bugs in those units, the landlord has no duty to exterminate. Only if there are actually bed bugs detected in those other units does a duty come up and they have to exterminate. Otherwise, it's a best practice. Best practices are not enforceable under the law.
But doesn't it make
The law
sense
gets,
in
I
the
understand the law.
I'll get
in
a
the
picture and I'll see what it
situation-
feels like. I'll
Doesn't
tell you
it-
guys. I'll come
One
back and
person
tell
at a
you.
time.
That's all right.
Joe?
You're speaking.
So,
Uh,
doesn't it make sense?
in your experience, have you encountered a situation like this? I'm sure you have.
Yep.
What kind of results have you experienced with this program?
Most of the times, and I didn't have many because I left legal aid, Columbus Legal Aid. I went to the statewide office where we didn't represent folks in 2007. It was just starting then, and they all got resolved. So, and part of that's because when the other side realizes there's a legal aid attorney, all of a sudden they realize the task of evicting now is a lot harder, and they say, so, you want to work this out? And then usually it gets worked out because the tenant doesn't want to take the risk of getting evicted. The landlord doesn't want to spend all the time and effort to see if they can get it. So some kind of agreement is reached. Since that time, not so much. I don't know. There have not been a lot of reported cases. Again, typically because the cases that get reported are cases where there was an attorney representing the tenant, and that just changes the dynamic, always. So because landlords and their attorneys realize, all right, now it's going to be a battle. Is it even worth, even if I win, is it worth going to battle? So the whole dynamic shifts as a result.
Well, my son told the big boss that he had already called an attorney because my son was really upset. He said my mom's lived 85 years in a bug-free house and she doesn't have any business living in a house where bugs are crawling on her. And he talked to the big shot. He wouldn't call him back then. I've lived here 18 years. I think Margie and I are the oldest ones in here. Not age-wise, but length of time-wise. And I want to tell you that I cannot tell you how much this place has changed. It is absolutely nothing like it was meant to be because of the managers we've had. And the management company has changed. So,
And the manager we have now, they took her out of housekeeping and put her in management.
she was the head housekeeper.
Now what's
And
that
now
tell
she
you?
won't.
There are no rules regarding what requirements there are to be a property manager.
Can I ask you a question?
So this lady had her hand up for a
Well, there
while.
should be.
I haven't got to attend very many meetings, and I know what someone's gone through. Thank God I haven't experienced, and maybe you guys have done what I'm going to ask. Is there any chance of possibly everyone someone writes a letter to our upper management, maybe Larry say that we would like to meet with upper management about the Ables, we don't consider they're not to us.
Been there,
not
done that.
doing strong enough stuff. Is there any chance of them, because they're out of where someone said pharma, of maybe possibly getting an exterminator here in Licking County to care for this building?
We've already done that.
Oh, you have?
Maybe we can do that.
Yeah, we met with.
They get an exterminator from Parma to come down here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
They've gotta have it.
Don't, that's
Well, has to be one of the owners.
way expensive. So Parma's my hometown, so I'm just kind of surprised at it.
So has a contract.
Okay, this has nothing to do with bed bugs. My apartment's been flooded 3 times. The same place twice, no, all 3 times was the same place. First time, I got new carpeting. The second time, it flooded further in my apartment. Didn't get new carpeting. Nobody came in and dried the carpet or anything. And that was 10 years ago. I want new carpeting, but I can't get it.
You're not going to be able, 10 years ago, it's way too long. No court is going to say you're entitled.
Pardon me?
No court is going to say.
Oh, I'm not going to court. I just
Well,
want to know what.
that's how you enforce rights, all right? If your landlord refuses to do it, all right, the only way to get the landlord to do something they're not going to do is you take them to court, all right? This would be an escrow. What?
Metropolitan housing. Well.
Oh, well, metropolitan, I mean like because you have a housing choice voucher?
No, they come around every year and inspect your apartment. I know of 3 people here.
They would only inspect an apartment where they had responsibility.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you have Metro.
Metro comes and inspects your whole apartment.
But not
Only if
everybody.
you're on Metro.
Only if you're on Metro. That's why I said you must have a housing choice voucher.
Not everybody.
Not everybody has one. They're only going to inspect those units
Yes.
where people have a voucher. They're not going to inspect everybody's because they have no responsibility or
What do you
obligation.
mean? You mean I'm on Metro?
Right,
That's why they come to
but
get
not
it.
all of your neighbors are.
Well, I don't, I just want my apartment.
My point is, that's true for you, that's not true for everybody else. I'm not sure how else to explain this to get you to understand.
But shouldn't you have your carpet replaced after 10 years?
No,
What Metro say?
there's nothing in the law. A lot of
But
people
I know
think-
3 people that got new flooring because Metro.
No, that's
Again,
Metro.
that's up to Metro. If you can convince your housing authority that you should have new carpeting, any kind of thing that needs to be replaced is only because the condition of it materially affects health and safety. Not because it's old and looks like hell or anything like that. That's not a reason. The last time I rented an apartment, I lived there for more than 10 years. When I moved in, the carpet was not new. Did I ask for new carpeting? No. Why? Because I knew that they would say, sure, we'll give you new carpeting. How much do you want to spend for your new carpet? Because there was nothing wrong with it other than it was old.
No, but mine's been flooded 3 times.
That doesn't mean necessarily that it materially affects health and safety. Again, you have Metro. If, in fact, Metro thinks it does,
What if I go
they
to the
should...
doctor? Because I have respiratory
The
problems.
doctor would have to be able to link the fact that your respiratory problems are because of this. Not just merely the fact that you live there, all right, that's not going to be enough. The doctor's got to be able to say, because she lives there and because of this condition, she has respiratory problems. And if the doctor's willing to say that, then maybe yeah. But unless your doctor's going to create the link, then no.
Understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had trouble. ACORD wants to, keeps telling me that I have to be evicted because I have an emotional support animal. I have the doctor who's head of genetics over at Children's Hospital said, she has to have this animal, and he even lists the laws that say I can have it. still get letters, and, I mean, it's frustrating, but I can prove that, and I've given them the paperwork, they have everything.
All right. So, your emotional support animal, as you already know, is clearly protected by the Fair Housing Act. You have done what is necessary by asking for a reasonable accommodation and providing doctor support of your need. I can't stop them, nor tell you how to stop them, from being nasty and giving you letters. What I can tell you is that ultimately, if they were dumb enough to take it to court and try to evict you, I assume there's a no pet rule.
Yes.
Right. So that your defense would be, I have an emotional support animal. It's protected under the Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act trumps any no pet rule. In fact, when I do trainings about fair housing, my line is, so the Fair Housing Act magically transforms your animal from a pet to a non-pet. And it's a support animal. And therefore, no pet rules apply because it is not a pet due to the magic of the Fair Housing Act in transforming it. So your landlord clearly needs to attend fair housing training, and I'm more than happy to give them fair housing training, but again, I can't make them go. All right?
I figure if they send me a letter, then I'll, I can fight it, because I know the law's on my side.
You are correct. So my guess is they may know too, and they're just trying to bully you and bluff you, and they're stopping short of going to court because they have a pretty good idea they're going to lose. Now, do I know that? No. I'm guessing based on my experience, but I can't make them stop giving you those.
In February, and this was another apartment building, we have our names up, and my landlord had changed my name to what to me said the Bible, Z-Anus. Oh yeah, people coming to me, and I took video and pictures. Yeah.
I'm not understanding. What changed what?
My name, it was a push button thing, you gotta buzz in. So you scroll through, and I took a video of every name on there, and they were fine, but they changed my name.
If you think the landlord-tenant law is going to cover such an isolated, nuanced incident like this, nowhere. Nowhere. Are you going to find anything about that? I mean, if you really want to do something about getting the notices, you might try contacting Legal Aid. I know that Legal Aid got a grant to do fair housing work. Whether they would consider this substantial enough to take action, since there's no eviction actually going on, as opposed simply to the repeated letters. I don't know. But the only way you're going to find out is by picking up the phone and calling them to see. But I know that they got money specifically to do fair housing work. This would fit into fair housing work, but whether it rises to the level of them being willing to assign an attorney to do something about it, I cannot tell you that.
Okay. Well, get prepared, guys. We'll probably all get eviction notices tomorrow.
But again, I'm talking specifically about the pet violation because of fair housing law.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about each and every notice that you get from your landlord.
I'm just saying that's the way it works.
Well, I'm just making clear that what I said to her isn't about each and every little notice that you get, because it pertains about reasonable accommodations and fair housing law, which doesn't apply to any of the other stuff that we've talked about so far.
So, what I was wondering is, now that we've heard all this and I understand it all, but what is the significance of it? I mean, should we just now decide to say to him, I'm not paying for this because I didn't bring these bed bugs in here, and then wait till he is eviction? Is that the? I know it's a personal choice, but I mean, is that the way to stop it for everybody to start doing that?
It's either that or you take them to court.
I did.
But did you? God love you. Didn't work.
Yeah. Calvin came and inspected my apartment. Said, we'll give you 2 months. I said, I just paid my last treatment in January, Calvin. And I said, it's taken everything I have. I don't have any savings. I don't have anything. And he said, I'll give you 2 months.
Yeah.
I said, because I just want to know where they're at. Where's he seeing them?
2
We're
months.
checking. We don't see them.
2 months to get out?
No, 2
Oh,
months
wasn't it?
to he's still come and inspect.
He's going to inspect, not the
I don't know.
But she's talking about the question of what happens when you get charged.
I know, but I said, he's the one that evicts.
Yeah.
I did we found that out from a meeting we had, that it has to be through his office.
Yeah, he told us that.
Actually, no. I remember him saying just the opposite, which I thought was amusing.
She has a question.
Management cannot evict any resident. Only the court can do that. You know what we learned to call that in law school? BS.
Smoke blowing. That's what he does.
The only way the court can evict that is if management decides to go to court to evict you. He's trying to simply say, it ain't my fault, blame the court.
Blowing smoke.
Yeah, BS.
It's just one more thing besides the books. What can we do about our trash? We have a trash room with 2 little dumpsters, and I can't say most of the time, but a lot of the times, the trash is coming actually out the door, up there on the floor.
So your landlord has a duty to maintain the common area. That's part of the common area. That's part of their statutory obligations under Ohio law. If the landlord fails to abide by their statutory obligations, you as a tenant, each and every one of you, since this is a common area, have the right to use the escrow process. I can walk you through that now if you like.
Yeah.
Use the escrow process because the landlord has failed in their duty to maintain the common area based on the trash. So, step number 1 is you have to give notice in writing. It has to be in writing. You don't get to say, well, they know about it because I told them. All right? You can tell them 100 times. Until it gets in writing, the clock doesn't start ticking, which I'll explain in just a moment. You want to date it, you want to sign it, you want to keep a copy for your records. In case they say, notice? What notice? I don't remember the notice. And you can say, this one here. Remember this one? See the date? See it? That's my signature. That's who I am. Let me finish. All right? Step number 2 is you then have to wait a reasonable amount of time, but not necessarily more than 30 days in order to get to step number 3. So courts often like 30 days. They would probably like 30 days for this. So, and before you actually get to escrow. Escrowing is simply depositing your money with the local court instead of paying your landlord on the date that it's due, probably the 1st for all of you, as long as you've given written notice and waited a reasonable amount of time. Your court will then set up a hearing, all right, about why you escrowed your rent. You will get a chance, and the more of you that do this, because it's a common area thing, the more likely you're going to get a result, which I'll explain in just a minute. So, about why you came here to escrow your rent. Your landlord will get a chance to say why they don't think they should have to do what you want to do. The reason it's better if more of you do this, if your landlord tries to blow it off in court saying, oh, it's not as bad as she said. Well, if they hear it over, the court hears it over and over and over and over again, the credibility of your landlord of saying, oh, it's really not that bad, the court's going to think, why are all these people here saying the opposite as opposed to just one person when you keep saying, oh, it's not that bad? I can't believe they all wanted to take the time and the energy and the effort to come here and complain about it being that bad when you say it's really not that bad.
And we have pictures to prove it.
I was just going to say, if you guys have one of these,
yes.
Yeah, you probably have a camera.
And it's just for the common areas, so it's just for the trash.
That's one of the obligations. Any obligation under law or the lease that the landlord fails to keep are a basis for using the escrow process. Okay. I was addressing this specific
I just want to make sure.
Under 532104.
Can I add something to that? Just a minute, girls. When Calvin was here in August, he said, because that seems to be an ongoing issue with the trash, and Calvin, who is the manager of court, came here and we mentioned that to him about the trash, and he said, he stood right there, and he said that he's going to have another dumpster outside to accommodate all the trash that comes, flooding to the doors. That never happened.
Again, something to say to the court. Again, the fact that more than one of you heard it and we're here and say it in court, the more believable it becomes to the court. Which is why I, again, am inducing more rather than less. I know people like to have somebody go be their patriot for them and go to court and carry the flag for everybody else. It doesn't work as well that way, folks, let me tell you. So one of you two ladies, both of you had your hand up. It doesn't matter to me who goes.
I just wanted to say when I submitted my paperwork for my cat, for the pain from the doctor's note, I just asked Tony, I said, would you mind signing it and then giving me a copy of it to prove that she received it? And she had no problem with that, so.
You can ask, you can't demand.
Yeah.
So
she was very amicable about it.
What I advise tenants to do in these situations is ask. If they say no, then you write at the bottom of hand delivered on such and such a date. So as your own evidence that you do so. That way if they try to dispute it, so you're saying that not only did you not get the notice, they lied about what they did here and delivering it to you. Is that what's going on? So again, it establishes your credibility. It affects their credibility. Yeah.
Okay, I have two things. One, there's a tenant here that takes out the trash sometimes. Do we take a picture of him taking out the trash? That the maintenance person is supposed to take out?
He does that just to help, don't he?
No, he said it's because it's his living area.
Yeah, he was the resident, he tries to help.
Yeah, he just tries to help if he gets tired of it.
But he shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, if tenants want to volunteer to help the landlord, they can do that.
Yeah, he's not, well, okay, not technically volunteer, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Well, he's like doing it.
I'm just saying, he's volunteering.
No.
There's no other word for that, in my opinion.
Thankful.
Okay.
Unless they're paying them.
Also, I'm the only person here that lives right over where the air compressor is housed for the alarm system. And we need that. But for some reason, and I've been here 5 years, it's never been a big problem. But when we had busted pipes in December, that compressor goes off more often. It went off a lot. They will go off during the night, and it's waking me up. It runs for 10, 20 minutes, and then it vibrates, and I can't sleep.
Whether a court will consider that something that the landlord has a duty to fix, I don't know. Again, I've been doing this a long time. Have I ever had a tenant come to me or I've represented them in an escrow proceeding where that was the problem? No. I don't know how that would come out. So the only way to do it is using the escrow process, going to court, and the court determining whether or not the landlord violated the law by not dealing with it because it's a common area issue or not. I don't know the answer to that question.
Nobody else is affected by it. It just happens to be under my bed.
I understand. I know people like black and white. You're asking a very specific, very nuanced question.
I'm very tight.
That there's just no black and white answer to. Yeah. So, again, if you use escrow, oftentimes, I don't know, again, if Legal Aid is doing many escrow cases, but in some places they do, some places they don't. I don't know whether the New York is taking them on or not. You might want to talk to them about that and find out in advance whether they think that's a good enough case for escrow and whether they would represent you once it gets into court or not. And that might be your gauge to decide, do I want to spend the time or any energy?
Are they disturbing peace?
This has to.
That would ultimately be the reason, yes.
Housekeeping. I live down there in that hallway. It hasn't been swept, cleaned for months.
Again, they have a duty to maintain the common area. If you're gonna ask me, does that mean they have to pass a white glove test?
No.
I don't
know. No, I mean,
you're talking about gradations of difference. How much they have to spend addressing the common area is not a black and white question. Do they have to maintain it? Yes. What does it mean to maintain? It's whatever the court says it means to maintain. Once you get into court and escrow, what?
I'm not going to go to court. I just want.
Again, if they're not going to do it, the only way you force a landlord to maintain the premises is by going to court and using the escrow process. You can't go down to the manager's office and say, I demand that you do this and do it now. And if you don't, then I'm gonna. Because there is no I'm gonna. Because court is the answer. I understand you don't want to go to court. Most people
We
don't.
just want our housekeepers to clean our hallway.
You're asking me, how do I get them to go do that? I'm telling you what the answer is. You don't like the answer. I understand that. But I don't have another answer for you.
No, I know.
It doesn't exist.
In that situation, because I live on the second floor, and a lot of times I come out, and I know she's putting down here, that in front of the elevator be dirty. I go right down to the office, and I tell Tony, would you please have her? By the next day, it's clean. But when I see it, I say something.
Yeah.
So maybe that works. Maybe that's what you need to do.
Just tell them that your halls hasn't been swept and needs swept. See if that would work.
Yeah, if she don't know, she
There you go.
don't know, she can't make it.
I have a question. Maintenance issues. So when Calvin was here in August, he said that he would like everyone to complete a work order. There was a lady that lived here prior, and she had several issues in her apartment complex, and she did put in several. Shirley, she did put in several work orders, and nothing ever got completed. So, what is a time frame? What is a valuable time frame? What is how to handle that? She had to move out, number one, due to her illness. Number two, because it was not up to par, I guess is what I want to say.
She had mold.
Yeah, she had black mold. She had tons of different things.
And she had the health department come and do testing on
That
it.
apartment was like a lost cause.
You're looking for a black and white answer again.
And I am, yes, but I guess
a rainbow of colors.
I guess my thing is when on the outside looking in, and I'm hoping you're understanding this, I guess I just would like to understand here what do we do?
In individual factual circumstances matter here.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you that if it's black mold, well then you only have to wait 17 days, 14 hours, and 37 minutes and 26 seconds.
Correct.
That's not how it works.
No.
All right? Well, that's sort of how people think. And I have to get people out of that mindset. All right? Because it's not like that. Here's the example I always use to get people to understand. So, if you're going to complain today about heat, your heat's not working, you're probably going to have to give them plenty of time to fix it. How badly do you really need heat now? But if we're having this conversation back in December, when we had that awful storm, do you think the answer should be different in terms of how long you should have to wait?
Absolutely.
Right, because the circumstances matter. All right?
We had
And
somebody here that happened.
That's the easiest example I can give to people. Just like now, if you complained in December about your air conditioning, can they take their time to fix it? You betcha. How much are you going to need air conditioning? Until maybe now. But doing it now, the timeline may be moved up. So it depends on what the problem is.
Okay.
And even like black mold, you understand that not all black mold is equal. And to show you just how unequal it is, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of types of black mold. Not only are not all of them toxic, but only a few are toxic to everybody. Some are more toxic to some individuals than others because their sensitivity to it, because we're all built differently, is different. And so for some people, the remediating the mold would have to be sooner. But again, they would probably need a doctor to be able to document that their adverse health condition is due to the black mold.
That lady had COPD.
So,
and
again,
lung cancer.
Not all COPD is the same either.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So as the example I like to use when I'm doing this, so when it comes to adverse health conditions, asthma. Landowners typically blow up asthma. All right? And again, not everybody is affected by asthma the same, just like COPD. I've had a heart attack. Am I at big risk? No. As my doctor said, as far as heart attacks go, everybody should get the kind that you had. That's the kind you want, if you have to have them. It wasn't that severe. Well, they said if. All right? So back to the asthma. My doctor diagnosed me as having asthma years ago, and he called it jock asthma, which is a nice way of saying exercise-induced asthma, cold, allergies. And I said to my doctor, well, you know what? And I met my doctor on the basketball court, so he knows. I said, Kim, since you already know I'm really a fake jock, I should only have fake jock asthma, right? He said, that's not how it works. So when I have asthma, I have an inhaler. I use it, I sit down, and then I'm good to go. So a great sign in the parking garage that we use, I thought succinctly stated how asthma is so different. It was a kid quote. They had a goldfish in a goldfish bowl, and he says, when I have an asthma attack, I feel like a fish out of water. That is not my asthma. So feeling like a fish out of water, that's huge. As I used to tell landlords who used to say it's just asthma, I said, well, it affects breathing. Have you tried going without breathing lately? Has it worked for you pretty well? I personally like breathing. So, all right, asthma's not the same for everybody. Back to the whole thing that different facts matter. So,
Well, we want to thank you for being here.
Yes.
Yes.
What's that?
We thank you for being here.
Oh,
Thank you.
sure. You're welcome.
Are you familiar with the wire at Snyder downtown Columbus?
Familiar with who?
Snyder and McGuire,
No, who's that? What's that?
at the law firm down
I do not know. Sorry.
I'm just curious.
No, have not had a chance to encounter them when I was doing legal aid work. But again, it's been a few years since I was doing, I was in eviction court, like 15 years. Which is another way of saying I'm old.
So everyone needs to kind of get together and write a letter then.
Yeah,
Well, that's our thing, we could do it.
Yeah.
We've already done
I
that.
know you have.
No, for the common areas.
Oh, yeah.
To do
About the notice, if you want to start going down the path of escrow.
Escrow, yes.
I assume that's where you were going with that.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a tenant in here that
I'm
had to do
starting
that.
to-
It's funny, his furnace nor his air conditioner was working for 1 year. And he won the case.
He should have. But
God rest
that
his
it
soul.
works. That was the real lesson there. It works.
Yes,
Not
it
as
did.
fast as I wanted.
We didn't fix the
No,
cockroach.
everybody wants it fixed
No.
yesterday.
He died
Everybody
trying to kill
wants to say what the
cockroaches.
problem is and then have it done. Yeah. So if you know, you guys have been around like me for a while. If you guys know of a lot of experiences where you just told somebody and your problem was fixed instantly, and that's how life worked for you, wow, what a wonderful life you've lived, because that ain't hasn't worked for me. It ain't gonna work here either. That's not how life works.
No, and I know when we've wrote letters before, they don't even acknowledge that we sent them. Larry will send them. You sent one certified, didn't you?
Document.
Yeah.
You hand deliver it, or if it's an email, you save
Yeah.
it. So that way they can't say, what notice? I don't remember no stinking notice.
If you send 30 of them.
For the group letter we sent certified.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be. I think it's actually more effective if you all do individual letters. But barring that, a group letter certainly is good.
And then keep a copy of it.
Yes. Always keep a copy.
Yeah.
What recourse do we have if they don't acknowledge our letter?
Yeah, that's the thing.
You have a copy.
Then we wait.
Just like when they give you a 3-day notice to evict you, the tenant doesn't have to acknowledge that they got it. Does that mean they can't do anything?
That's when we wait.
No, they can still go forward in court. You can still go forward with escrow. They don't have to acknowledge it. That's why I suggested if you want to take it to the office and they don't want to sign it, like they got, you write it at the bottom of it, hand delivered at such and such a date, and keep a copy of it.
Part of the problem is our management here is rather limited. Most of the decisions are made through the management company, which is in Columbus. So we don't have a direct connection other than writing letters, and we've done that without.
They don't have to give you a direct connection. We have access here. That's all that's required under the law. And you use that access, and you're free to go to court. So they don't get to say, well, corporate didn't get it, so it doesn't count. That's not how it works. All right? I think the corporate typically doesn't want you to contact them. That's why they have property management, so you're not bugging them, so they can do their job, whatever that is.
Yeah.
There you go.
One more question, sorry.
Any more questions?
Yeah. If I give my notice, I was told if I give my notice to move, my lease is up in July, give the proper time. If they go in and find bed bugs, I'm responsible for them until they get rid of them.
Yes.
Well, they can say that's true. The question is whether you're going to pay for it or whether you're going to make them take you to court to pay for it or not. So just the fact that they're there doesn't mean that you were necessarily responsible. And that's especially true if, again, there were bed bugs in your neighbors and they slid through the wall, which often can happen.
But we're not allowed
after
to
you
know.
leave.
We're
What?
not allowed to know if there's bed bugs in the neighbors.
Well, you're allowed to ask your neighbor.
A lot of times they don't tell you.
That may be true. I'm just saying you are allowed, but you might have to take the time and the energy. Your landlord has no duty to disclose whether your neighbors do or not. They can choose to, but you have no way of saying, you have to tell me, because there is no way of saying, you have to tell me, because there is no or else at the end of that sentence. Yeah.
Are they responsible for a person applying here to make them aware that there is a bed bug problem if they're wanting to lease? Do they actually have to tell them that, or only if they?
You mean for an applicant?
Yes.
Right, if it's a new person coming
The answer
in.
is no. There's no duty to disclose any defects. So now, what you should do, and this for anybody who's thinking about moving, you can ask. They have a duty not to misrepresent. So if they lie, that would be a basis to break your lease early because you lied. All right? I would not have entered this contract to lease from you but for the fact that you represented there were no bed bugs. And that wasn't true when I moved in. Misrepresentation, it's not in landlord-tenant law, but it's part of contract law. All right? You've induced the person to take action based on your statements, which were false, and you knew they were false, and therefore that person has the right to get out of the contract that they would have never entered, but for the fact that you lied.
Would the tenant have to still pay to have the spraying, or would the company be responsible for that?
Again, this is going to
That's
be a
not
question
a-
of
Okay.
Who's responsible?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Now what's scares me, I moved in, and they did not say anything to me about the apartment they put me in. That
Did you ask?
person that lived there had all types of bugs.
Again, you don't have a duty to disclose. If you ask them about all that and they
But
lie
I
to you,
didn't know, and
that's why you ask.
so now if I get bugs of any kind, I'm responsible.
No, that's not true. That is not what I've been saying today.
No, but that's what they're saying.
I understand. I can't stop them from saying it. All right? All I can tell you is you have to decide to not pay and go
I
to
mean,
court.
I
and
can't
defend.
prove it unless I talk to them about that, but, I mean, other tenants has just told me that.
Well, you can bring those other tenants to court. They can testify about stuff they have. They also have records. Once you get to court, there are rules that allow to get to those records. It will show whether or not it was treated at a time. You don't have the ability or access to those records without being in court. Court has rules that allow access to that information. When you're not in court, you don't have any right to demand those records. You can ask for them, they can say no. When it gets to court, there are rules that allow folks to get that information if you know the rules.
This is what they did to me. I didn't have any copies of any of the paperwork that Abel did the first 6 times they were in my apartment. Right. And I called down to the office and told them I wanted my copies of the building. They sent me my neighbors. I never asked me my copies.
Again, you could ask, you can't demand. There's no way for you to force them to give you that information unless you're in court. Again, you just can't say, I have a right to this, you have to give it to me or else, because there is no or else.
If you're asking for copies of things you don't have upstairs, like I had a stack of them, and then when it finally ended, I didn't ask for any more. If I ask them for copies of everything they've sent to me, a copy of my file, they are required to give it to me, right?
No.
Oh, great.
Okay, do you have to believe on that one?
There's nothing under landlord-tenant law that requires a landlord.
If you want to go to court, then you can't get your copies.
Your attorney can.
Once you get into court, there are rules under the court procedures that allow to do that, but until it gets to court.
Oh, so if you go
The answer is no.
To get evicted.
Well, again, the escrow process is also a court process. The court rules apply to it, too, just like they apply to evictions. And again, legal aid lawyers know that stuff. All right?
The lady that she was talking about, they did evict her.
Yeah, so all that'll be in court by now.
They did evict her because she wouldn't let them in the spray.
Yeah, you have a duty to let them in the spray. There's no way you're going to win that case as a tenant.
Abel told me, not this guy that's here now from Abel, originally, I said, why aren't you spraying now? He said, I don't have enough on me to spray your apartment. So I said, well, what am I supposed to do? He said, get 100% or 99% alcohol and spray on all your everything. Spray it on your baseboards. Get rid of the little bugs. Spray it on your mattress. Everything.
You need to learn to start taking out your phones and say, speak louder into my phone so I can hear it. Because the chances, in my opinion, that they're going to admit that that's what they told you, if you bring them to court, is somewhere between 0 and less than that. Because that's a way to get yourself fired as an employee. And who's going to say, oh, you know what? Having my job is way more important than telling the truth. So I'm going to tell the truth and the hell with my job. Yeah, that's not how that works.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of shoulds in life.
Yes.
Not necessarily have anything to do with any of this that aren't. And I'm sure I don't need to explain that to you guys.
No.
Life's not fair.
No, it isn't. But then you start wondering, when does this stuff jump into the abuse of seniors? Some of the stuff that goes on here, it's like, it's abusive. I mean, they were abusive to her. They're abusive.
There are agencies, an agency throughout the state of Ohio. You can talk to them. That is, again, my thing is landlord-tenant law. It's not part of landlord-tenant law. Whether the area agencies on aging would think so, I don't know. But the only way to know is to pick up the phone and talk to them.
I think you have to call a Department of Aging.
Yeah.
In
What I'm talking about is something a little bit different but close.
where I work for Licking County Aging Partners, and we have a Heritage Times comes out, and I believe I know what you're talking about, senior verbal abuse. There is numbers in there for elderly abuse where they can call.
Yeah. Really?
There should be some booklets up here.
Yeah.
You call welfare and press a button for elderly abuse, and then that's who you talk to.
I think she has a case for that. I really believe that.
But yeah, you can.
The only way you know is by calling and talking to somebody. Right? Got to make the time and the effort.
And I think she has all those numbers up on the board, but I can print one off because I keep them to give it to people.
She hadn't even lived there that long. She's already copied.
I'm sure. Now, there's a statewide organization that's there's a Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging. I don't know if they come out this far, but there's a bunch of them, all right, scattered throughout Ohio regionally. So if Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging covers here, that's what I'm suggesting one calls, to talk to somebody from there.
Well, Adult Protective Services is through Brown Family Services, and
That's, in my opinion, and I don't know, because again, I'm a housing guy, I think the abuse has to be really intense. This is not something that's going to draw their attention, in my opinion. But again, I don't know. You call and you find out. So this is usually like kids stealing money from their parents because they've been appointed guardians and exploitation, that kind of stuff. Is my sense of how that goes. But anyway, outside of my area of expertise, I'm doing some guessing here.
Yeah.
I'm good if you're good.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much. Appreciate you.
Sure.
Yeah, but you know, you wouldn't go there. I saw a picture today. It goes on your website. You know, it's bottom line.
Yeah.
We have to head to the courts.
I ain't able to get out here and walk and let alone go there.
And it's gonna probably be informal.
Yeah.
You know, because that's where a court is. So, you know, what's the point?
No, they do it in Licking County. Because you live in Licking County, so they do it in Licking County. You reside in Licking County, so they'll do it in Licking County. If you guys all band together and do that, write a
See,
letter.
that's the problem, Jessica. We don't all join together. There may be maybe 10 or 12 people, and that's it.
And that's fine. If you can get that, that's 12 people. But if
We
you
did that escrow letter a couple of months ago. That was dead in the water. Didn't go anywhere. And then the 7 massive mailings. I don't know how that's turning out. There's only 7 people.
If they evict Betty, then we can go to court and support her, depending on what her eviction situation is.
Because if she didn't get sprayed for bed bugs, she said, I'm not paying this.
Right. If she refuses to pay,
Yeah.
and they take her to court, then we have a course, and they have to prove that she brought the bugs in.
Correct.
So that's the only way. Bottom
Basically,
line,
you guys just have to start standing up to them.
That's what he
But if that's the case, wouldn't she have to hire a lawyer?
That's where the correct, but that's where the legal aid would come in. And the legal aid would jump on it immediately. That's what he said. He said if you call them, like her getting her eviction notice 3 days prior to, he said she'll get that. They would jump on it immediately.
I have another solution. You go to law school.
Oh, yeah.
A law degree.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I would just like to beat the crap out of her and just take her job for a little bit. Go hide her somewhere.
She is not capable of.
No, she's not.
I think
But there's
they know
nothing we
that.
can do about
They
that.
know they-
Yeah. She's the fall guy. That's exactly what she is.
So I think we got some answers.
You can't do anything other than going to court.
Tell you something.
Hardly anybody's going to do it.
7 Scotty, if you can. I've got a carrot cake again.
Oh, do you? You little stinker.
You know, I always.
I got some, I don't have enough crackers though, but I've got some, meat and cheese. Meat and cheese. That's what I've got.
About like that.
That's what I've got. Sausage and
I got 2 different kinds of
cheese.
Amish. They came directly from the Amish, and these are a little different than you would normally buy.
There we go.
And I got the crackers. I got the Ritz crackers. I got 2 packs of them.
There you go. So you're gonna bring the meat and I'll bring the cheese or what? Or
Yeah.
both of us to do it.
Yeah, because I need to get rid of that.
Okay.
And my carrot.
Okay. Gotcha.
And Jan said if she gets back in time, she's going to stop in and have a piece of carrot cake.
Okay. Well, where's she going?
Oh, she's got supper tonight. This is the night she goes for supper.
No, it's tomorrow night, isn't it?
That's tomorrow night.
Oh, she said something. She got something tonight. She said she gets back in
Oh,
time.
probably something with the kids or something. Well, we better move all this back. Baby. Huh? Yes, he
I love it.
Yeah, that was stays and that was stays. This one goes just to go back.
Table or something. Anyway, if I understood what everything he said was legal, the bottom line is, you want to take whatever you say, we should have the right to.
That's this one over here.
That one don't belong. That's what it is. That was,
You know what this is?
that don't fit there.
I don't know what. Huh?
This goes over here.
I don't know. I don't know what I did with that paper I had sitting here.
I just folded it up and put it on.
Oh, good.
That's what really got me upset was because
They're hoping that maybe if they ask again, I'll give them a better answer that they like. That they'll like better.
Yeah, it's just.
It happens all the time. Happens all the time.
They want you to fix this.
yeah, the ones that didn't hear that got funny and left.
Never know.
I've had people call the hotline and say, my landlord isn't doing this, that, and the other thing. So what I need you to do is tell my landlord to fix this, and don't tell him how you moved, and don't tell him it came from me. I said, and how is it that you think I'm going to be able to get your landlord to fix stuff that is only in your place and not know? Sometimes I'll get the smart-ass answer. Well, you're the lawyer. You figure it out. Yeah, well, I am the lawyer, and I can't figure it out, so I got nothing for you.
But there is, I mean,
People don't like confrontation.
no, they don't.
So
They like the easy solution, but there are some options there.
Yes,
Great.
but there is a problem here. There is.
Without a doubt. I mean, you wouldn't have this many people in the room if
No.
it wasn't. As soon as I walked in, I knew that.
Yeah,
Just by
but
the sheer
it's
numbers.
trying to figure out the best options
Yeah.
to do, like how to take the action to
The
do it.
letters, the documenting,
Yes.
give notice.
And we have tried doing that kind of stuff.
Well, and then then you have to do the next step, which is
follow the steps.
Like Joe, I mean, she's too old for this. She's in her 80s. She was just saying, she said, I can't do this. I can't do it. I don't have the money.
The abuse and the extra anxiety that it's putting on us, it's not fair. It's not fair.
I agree.
But it's not low.
Well, he even said to that Calvin, if this was your parents, would you treat them this way? He said no.
He actually said no.
Which is what I said when somebody said to treat the parents the same way. I said, I doubt it.
No.
But they get away with it, and it's a business.
But you're not
And if
my
you ever
parents.
saw the likes of this man that comes in there, have you ever ran into him? He's got the one with the dreadlocks.
Calvin?
No, this
Oh.
guy that's doing the spraying. I mean, he is absolutely 100% nasty. He don't want you to ask him anything. He don't want you to speak to him. I don't think he likes white people, so I think.
Again, is an exterminator. You have no control over it.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I always say, there's the front door, there's the back door, we have choices.
That's another option too. It's not good, but
Again, using the court
using
is an
court
option.
is.
So
That
it's
sounded
gonna,
like the best
it's
option
going
to me.
to take
Say
time
no.
and effort. Lots of people don't want to take the time and the effort.
Well,
Most
some of them
people-
can't, like Judy.
Well,
she can't
sure,
afford
but even ones that can, I mean, most people, unless you're a lawyer, don't want to be anywhere near a court. I get that. But sometimes it's the only way to resolve it. If you guys can get legal aid to assist you, especially, and again, typically legal aid is more interested if there are more people involved because they see it now as, I'm not just helping a tenant or two, I'm helping a big problem. So all at the same time. And that means an investment of our resources makes a lot more sense. All right? And again, that's how, like, I used to manage the housing group at Columbus Legal Aid. That's how we thought. And I was hardly alone in that kind of thinking with my collaborators around the state. All legal aids think like that. How can I get the biggest bang for my buck? That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's plenty of people here, if you're
But
willing.
they got, they got to be willing.
Here's a good one.
They got to be willing. Yep.
We're behind you 100%, kid.
Yeah, right. Just tell them no. Go to. Okay.
Joe said go to court.
What do we call it, Joe?
But clearly, something that was needed.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Hope it helps.
Are you in touch and have any follow-up for you? Cards for everybody.
Oh.
What is it?
I gave Larry mine.
You give Larry his card.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, hope it helps.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
All right, go ahead. How you doing?
No.
I had a crush in.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hi there.
Mailbag.
How you doing?